Good evening and welcome to the April 19th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank our staff for their continued support to this commission and their diligence assisting applicants. We are missing 2 commissioners tonight. However, we have a quorum. We're moving forward. I'd like to remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Let's refrain from speaking over each other. Also, all votes need to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name with your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you'll be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, your project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, your project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you really want to hear a negative determination. For the benefit of anyone waiting tonight for a particular hearing, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, number 2, Uncantina North is expected to be continued. With all that, first up is vote minutes, March 29, 2023. Anybody?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written with any changes suggested by the members of the board.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carlo Hawk's aye.
Melissa.
Tug, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accept the minutes as submitted. Thank you, Kristen. Next up are minutes for April 5th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written with any changes suggested by the board.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carlo Hawk's aye.
Melissa.
Tug, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes as submitted. Thank you again, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen.
Next up is a request for a continuance under a notice of intent. Franciscan Friars Holy Name Province, number 2, Uncantina North, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a set of stairs, reconstruct a concrete wall with steps, reconstruct portions of an existing patio in kind, and to install mitigation and restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 26th. The revised plan was submitted to the office today.
Carlo Hawk, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
Sorry, what was the date you gave me?
26th, next week.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 4/26. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
and Melissa.
Right Tug, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 4/26. Next up, request for determination of applicability. First up, Cumloden Associates, Inc., 4559 to 101 Cumloden Drive and 14 Damon Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct routine maintenance and upkeep of the roads and the abutting road shoulders. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
Right Tug, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Anthony and Elaine DeLuca, 14 Willis Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconfigure an existing driveway, create a shell driveway, and remove and replace a stockade fence. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project is solely located in an AE flood zone.
thank you.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions? Melissa?
Thank you, Jimmy. Quick question, Alyssa, maybe. Do we know if they're going to replace any of the 9 trees they plan to take down? I know it's just a flood zone, but
They're not proposing any replanting.
do we have some kind of info sheet that we give to people to suggest that they replant things only, if only because the vegetation protects them more?
We can-
Go ahead, Jen.
No, actually, if you want us to develop something for the board to approve and we can pass out, we'd be happy to.
I'll hold that thought. Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
All right, again, the motion and the second is to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
Right Tug, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Harbor Way Corporation, 334 Scranton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct and expand an existing deck and to install mitigation plantings. Ms. Bergeron?
Yes, the applicant has withdrawn their application.
All right. All right, that takes us to TA Falmouth LLC, care of the Wilder Companies, 137 T-Ticket Highway, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to mill and repave the existing parking lot and entry roads. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? Melissa?
Just wanted to emphasize that I hope that the silt sacks will indeed be installed in all relevant catch basins as is stated on the RDA.
Yes, that's what was proposed.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Steve? I'm Steve. Way ahead of myself.
Thanks.
Melissa?
Right Tug, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Town of Falmouth, care of Amy Lowell, 154 Blacksmith Shop Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to grade within the outer buffer zone to a wetland. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
Right, dog eye.
Is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you to Alyssa and Emma. Next up are requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. The first notice has been already previously continued, brings us to continued requests for hearing under notice of intent. First up, Brad and Lucille Nelson, 418 West Falmouth Highway, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an existing deck, construct 2 additions, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
I'm promoting Dave Martin up and Lauren Levesque or Levesque, I'm not quite sure, to present their projects.
And just for the record, this has not been open, so the quorum is all of us.
Correct.
All right. Mr. Martin, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and hello, everyone. And Lauren Levesque is with me also. Lauren prepared the notice of intent and the mitigation planting plan. Thank you for letting us continue the hearing. There were some concerns that came up in the staff report. Staff shared time with us and we were able to address those concerns. Shall I share the plan with you?
Please do.
Oh, come on. Sorry. Wrong end of the stack. Did that work?
You see it, Dave,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. So this is an overview. Building's located in the middle of the plan. To the right of the plan, across North Falmouth Highway, we have a resource area mapped by the state as marsh, bog, and vernal pool. The 100-foot A zone buffer to that. The rear of the property, the opposite end, we have an isolated vegetative wetland. It's not regulated under the state, it's regulated under the bylaw. We have an A and a B buffer to that. You can see there's 2 small additions. The one to the rear of the house will be on piles. The one on the side of the house will be on a 4-foot crawl space. We proposed a limit of work along the front of the property suggested by staff. All excavated materials are obviously going to be removed off site. Proposed dry wells. Mitigation calculations that take into account the resource area across the street at a 3-to-1 ratio and a 2-to-1 ratio for resource area, excuse me, to the rear. There was also a previous requirement on this property that we were not aware of. Some work prior to our client owning the property where some plantings were required that were no longer on site. So we've included that in our mitigation planting. If there's no questions, I can stop sharing or not.
Dave, you can stop sharing and then Lauren can share her screen.
Thank you.
I
everybody. Okay, I'm a little new to this format, so I think it looks pretty easy though. So let's see how this goes. All right.
Love the optimism.
All
There you go.
right. So, yeah, my name's Lauren Levesque, and I have a company called Little Harbor Gardens operating out of Woods Hole. So, yeah, here is the plan. Whoops. And yeah, so we've created a zone for all the mitigation and restoration plantings at the lower corner of the property. We've incorporated the required mitigation for the additions, the DCPC calculations, and the additional square footage from those prior required plantings all within this zone. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Thank you. You can stop sharing.
Oh, okay.
Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're working with Lauren and Dave on their project. You're keeping a kind of a buffer between, like a mowed strip between the new plantings and the invasives, correct?
Yes,
Yep.
that's
So
right.
we've
Yeah.
seen that before.
Yeah, the area behind the property is really thick with tall blackberry, bittersweet, honeysuckle. So for ease of maintenance.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then, yeah, we wanted, Jamie, we wanted the applicant to show a terrace. When we first saw the plan, there was no outdoor space, and we didn't want them to have to come back, especially in the DCPC, when then they would have had to add more DCPC plantings if they came back for a patio or a terrace. So we had them revise the plan just to show it, just in case within the life of the permit, they wanted to add it. It wasn't gonna trigger another 300 square feet of mitigation plantings in the DCPC for them. So I don't think we have, at least I don't have any additional comments or questions at this time.
all right. Ms. Bergeron,
I have no comments at this time. Thank you.
all right. Betsy,
No comments or questions. Nice, clear plan. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Courtney,
Are blackberries an invasive?
Well, I don't know if the blackberries are exactly, but the way that they act are, in terms of suckering, hanging over, being thorny, but no, it's mostly the porcelain berry, multiflora, rose, Asian honeysuckle. That's the real problem there. Yeah.
Now, I know blackberries grow everywhere in this area, and I'm in West Falmouth and, or in Sipawicet, but they make awfully good wine. No other comments.
you had to know that was coming. Oh, boy. All right. Kudos for the short and sweet presentation. Jen, procedurally, should the mitigation be on Dave's plan? Or will both plans be submitted as part of the record?
Jamie, if I could just comment, I made a note
Sure.
specifically on the plan that references Lauren's plan.
Yeah. But what I want to know is, should it be on the stamp plan, or is Lauren's plan adequate, meaning for the record?
I think for the record, Dave is showing a square foot area of the mitigation planting, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. I don't have a problem with the plan. I just, again, just for the
No, I
record.
understand.
All right. Maury,
I agree I think in the future, we should have them on both plans. I know they're referenced, but it just makes it easier. When somebody just wants to look at the plan. And I'm glad to see that staff worked with you to reduce the low bush blueberry and the sweet fern and give more of a substantial buffer there. It was a nice plan. Thank you.
Thanks.
Melissa,
Thanks, Jamie. So as the newbie on the board here, I do have a question about, I know that the addition to the I guess it's to the north on the house, the one that's right near the stone wall, is within the B zone of the buffer across, or of the wetland across the street. And I know that 24A goes through there, so it's a pretty built up area anyhow. But do we not bat an eye at a whole new addition going up in a B zone? That isn't I don't know, where we don't lose other impervious fixtures. Do we not bat an eye at that?
I believe that's being accounted for at the 3-to-1
It's
mitigation.
part of the 3-to-1 mitigation.
3-to-1. Okay, it is a 3-to-1 as opposed to.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks. And then the only other thing is, I noticed off the back of the where the mitigation is going. I don't know if it's whose property it's on, but there's all kinds of detritus. There's a vinyl roof rack pod, and there's a little boat back there and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if I think the vinyl pod might be actually in their vines and brambles. Hoping somebody can clear that stuff out. Or if not, if it's the neighbors, and we should have the neighbors pull out all their boats and pods and things like that. Just looks like over the years, toys have been caught in the wetland. But other than that, no real comments. Sort of behind, if you look at the little plan that has the little walkway on it, it's sort of right where it says existing vines and brambles. There's a roof pod, very nice roof pod actually. In there.
Okay.
Should probably be removed. It's probably teeming with salamanders right now. But yeah, but thanks. That's it.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat. No hands are raised, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions?
I'll make a
All right.
motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing else. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Sorry, Fragile guy, I was muted.
it is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Next up, Teresa Mancini, 7J Road Realty Trust, 7J Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a patio. And for the record, the quorum includes everyone tonight.
I have promoted Tom Bunker up from BSS Design to present his project. Where'd Tom go? Oh, there you are, Tom.
I'm here.
Tom.
Yeah,
Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
I'm up. Okay. Well, as you may or may not know, I have nothing new to show, but I just wanted to come on and explain to you that I've talked with Teresa Mancini, and she wants me back up in Falmouth to discuss this personally with me before I make any further changes. I sent her the staff report and all, and I guess I sent her letter or whatever was spread around to you, but I just thought tell you just to get on here and tell you the reasoning. We'll request the continuance until May 17th. She's not going to be back into Falmouth until May 3rd, and then that will give me 2 months not 2 months, 2 weeks to to see what she wants to do and get new plans in for the 17th, if that's okay with you. So I'll request the continuance to May 17th.
Is that available, Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And I'll make that motion.
Carlo Hawks
Take
second.
this to May 17th. Gladfelter.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until May 17th. I don't think that requires any public comments. Melissa, you're on mute.
Thanks. A quick question. Tom, when I went back out to the property and was, thinking a little more, but I was looking closer at the plan, and just so you know, in the front of the house, you have listed a red maple, but the red maple's not there. I don't know what happened to it, or it's sort of where the lemon hydrangea is in front of the house.
What, lemon hydrangea?
There's
Oh,
whatever it's called. It's but
one of those non-native plants. I
yeah,
will.
It says red maple right there, and that's
Yeah.
not there. So
Okay, I will check into that. Thank
thanks.
you.
Yeah, sorry.
Mhm.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, the motion and the second on the table is to continue this hearing until 5:17. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Glenfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 5:17. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, Joseph M. Lacana, 23 Child River Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconfigure the driveway, remove an existing deck and patios, install a new patio with retaining wall, construct a rinse station, and install mitigation and restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mark Dibb up from Cape and Islands to present the project. Mark, I thought you were going to be Doug tonight, or Doug was going to be you.
Yeah, I'm filling in for Doug, who was going to fill in for me earlier today.
Okay.
All right, hold on one second, Mark. For the record, this hasn't been open, so the quorum is all of us. Mr. Dibb, you're up, sir.
Okay. First off, I apologize. Doug didn't fill me in that it hadn't been opened yet. But anyways, I think it was continued because we did get a staff letter, a staff report. And we did respond to the staff report on an April 12th letter. Well, if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the proposal is it's located at 23 Childs River, bordered by Childs River on the west, as well as Childs River Road on the east. It is a single family residence. We're proposing the proposed work consists of this patio, the wall here. We plan to remove some gravel parking area and reduce it to a 20/20 parking space, as well as reconstruct some of these stairs in this area, and propose the rinse station at this end of the property and a small step down onto the patio. We're also replacing some existing brick walkway and patio in kind in this area, and installing some just residential lighting on this patio. The plan does outline the required mitigation. There was quite a bit of history with a septic system and some previous plans and peer plans that resulted in some existing vegetation that needed to be restored. I believe that's this area is restoration area, or vice versa. Excuse me a second. And then we do have mitigation for the proposed work. There's a mitigation table with the Maria Hickey's planting plan on it and the required mitigation numbers. Again, I apologize. I thought it had been opened and presented, but if I'm missing anything, I could also answer any questions. But in general, that is the proposal. We did provide some Zone A and Zone B impervious cover sketches to help show those mitigation numbers. And at this point, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is another project where Alyssa and I were working with Cape and Islands to try to resolve all the outstanding issues before it came to the board. We met by Zoom with Jeff Johnson and Doug Schneider of Cape and Islands. And I believe we are good with the plan that is being presented. I think it addresses the mitigation that's required. It addresses the unpermitted structures, and it also addresses the restoration that's required on site. So I have no further comments at this time.
all right. Ms. Bergeron,
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
all right. Courtney, we'll start with you.
No questions.
All right. I like the plan. I like the colorization for what it's worth. I mean, it just helps to understand it all better. Thanks for addressing all the problems. All right, Maury.
Yeah, I liked everything. It's just when I'm looking at it, the revision in the last plan, except for the calculation numbers, it doesn't look like really the plan really changed an area, but I'm sure it did. And I'm glad that there's more plants. It just doesn't seem to reflect it in the on the ground, on the instrument of the plan. I mean, I kind of held them up and looked through and they look almost identical. So as long as we get the same, we get the amount of plants that are on the plan, square footage, I'm happy. And that'll be done in the as-built, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Melissa.
Yeah, it's a great little site, and I'm glad to see all the plantings on the plan. I'm a little confused. It says in Zone B, you're adding 339 square feet, but I see you removing lots of things in Zone B, as in shrinking the parking lot. So, where's the 339 square feet of new construction in Zone B?
Trying to review the sketch we submitted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this big one that's dated March. Actually, it's dated March 10th, but yeah, it's dated March 10th. Both of them are that I have here. This one was received March 13th.
So I'm looking at the the impervious area sketch. It just looks like there was some improvements to the stone walkways and the stairs that were included in area.
Well, those steps are there already. Well, I guess they're timber, they're not stone right now.
Correct. Yeah, I think that might be the.
Okay.
I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but
Okay.
I do believe it, that they're accurate, and there is that amount of increase in the required mitigation.
And then my only concern is that you're removing like 70 inches of trees, caliper inches of trees, and you're replacing with 5 trees. Is there any way to? I mean, that double trunk cherry is kind of a nice one, and you're installing a wall along the coastal bank alongside the patio, but if you didn't do that, you could also keep then a 28-inch oak there. And it seems a little, I mean, we're within the A zone, removing trees.
Melissa, if I can speak to that.
Please.
Okay.
Hi.
There are trees for everyone. Maria Hickey and Associates, for the record. Good evening. I'll try to keep this, as Betsy said, efficient so we can watch the Bruins. Anywho. Okay, so this was a client that I brought over to Cape and Islands Engineering. They're new homeowners of this beautiful site. They wanted to make some improvements. When I first met with them, I discovered there were many on the property that were done without a permit by the previous owner. So the big goal was to bring the property into compliance. When I was out there, so the cherry and there's some pines, they're actually leaning towards the house in a precarious manner, that we are concerned about structural hazard to the roof. There's a locust tree. Well, obviously locusts are
Was that a locust
non-native.
in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's got to come out with its associated roots. There
Mhm.
is another tree slated for removal because it's been so severely pruned.
Yeah.
It's got 2 limbs on it.
Mhm.
I'd much rather have additional trees that are nice and healthy and that can grow as they're supposed to grow without any pruning, cutting, etc. The upper
Okay.
parking lot was bigger than it's supposed to be, so that's being shrinked. And we're just reconfiguring those stairs that are coming down the hillside. But the net result is that between mitigation and restoration plantings, most of the property is going to have a dramatic improvement of a native wooded planted buffer and resource area,
Okay.
along with additional trees.
Yeah, now that you mention it, that cherry tree was really hacked to bits, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately.
I guess I was just adding up all the inches going, oh, that's a lot of tree to remove and only 5 in. So if you can find a spot for another tree, I know you're working with Jen and Alyssa, that would be great. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's a great little property and I'm glad that
It sure is. It sure
glad
is.
they're bringing it back to nature. Okay, thanks so much, Maria.
Thank
And
you.
Matt. Okay.
All right. Betsy?
No comments.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat. There is one person who has their hand raised, but I do believe they have their hand raised for another hearing. If you don't want me to promote you to a panelist for this hearing, please unraise your hand. Okay, I'm gonna promote them. I
Did
do
they type
believe
in a
you-
question?
Excuse me?
Did they type anything in?
No, I know they're here for a different hearing though.
Okay, so we covered for the record then?
Yeah, I think we're covered.
If I may, I
Okay.
think Jen, this person's got 2 screens open, probably doesn't realize the second
Yeah,
screen is.
probably. I know that they're here for a different hearing.
All right. Just so that, it's known that we offered. All right. What are you thinking?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird,
Gladfelter.
second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawk's Eye.
Melissa.
Hi, Todd, guy.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, John and Karen Daigle, 27 Davis Neck Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a pool and patio, reconstruct and enlarge an existing deck, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom Bunker is here to present his continued project. As Murray, are you staying in on this one too?
Yes.
Okay,
All right. And
Tom, you're muted.
existing quorum works for us, so.
Okay.
Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Yes, thank you. I will show you the plan and describe the changes we made since the last time, if I may share. Where's that? Share screen. Okay, as for the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, and we prepared this plan. We were here, I guess, maybe three or 4 weeks ago. with this plan, and we were asked to fill in a few missing parts to it. And so one thing that we added was this is actually proposed mitigation in 2005 that was planted, seems to have disappeared over time, where we had 345 square feet of native shrubs, being Prunus marittima and Murica pennsylvanica, and also a 2.5-inch white oak in this location. This is basically the same location where it was approved in 2005, with a little bit of moving it around, I think mostly because of the change in the lawn line, particularly the bamboo. So we were sort of now shown this a root barrier extending along the property line and extending along where the mitigation planting will go in here. And then I think actually before the first hearing, I had submitted the protocol for removing the bamboo, and I did not send it in again for this hearing, but it has to do with cutting, probably repeated cutting and injecting the stems or putting on the leaves with herbicide and for over several growing seasons to get rid of that. You have in the staff report, you have a comment or that perhaps if any trees must be removed during this removal of the bamboo, if trees must be removed, and we will obviously agree to replace any trees that are any native trees, like the oak trees that are might come out at the same time, will be replaced here. And we previously had the current mitigation planting up in this area here, pushed up around the corner, around the lot line, and so now that's been spread down around the edge of the lawn, closer to the resource area, being this little arm of Green Pond and the salt marsh that wraps around here. And this amounts to 966 square feet. There's basically 1,000 square feet. I also have a 6 to 8 foot cedar tree planted in this location. This location is not too exposed. It's not exposed like in North Falmouth on Point Road, so this won't do badly in the. It's protected by other vegetation here, so the tree and the mitigation planting, I think, will do fine right here. I think those are the basic two. There were a couple other trees here, which I believe was pointed out that they had been damaged or blown over in a microburst, and as a natural act, they were allowed to be cleaned up. But we're not here now proposing to replant those trees. They did show in an aerial photo, but they were blown over. So that's why they're no longer here. And I think that perhaps Maria might have a couple things to say about this. I know that she has been talking with staff more than I have. I'll take this down for now and see if she wants to add anything.
Thanks, Tom.
Good evening. My name is Maria Hickey from Maria Hickey and Associates. And my brother John and his wife Karen bought this house back in 2010. So I'm very familiar with the property. At the time, there were, and Jen and Alyssa know this, a woody buffer that separated the property and the one previous to it. So we would like to reestablish that So that's why we have the plants on the mitigation plan shown as it is. I did bring in Jen Alyssa, date stamped photos from the microburst, and I think it was August 2nd, 2010, where we lost 2 trees on the lawn. There was another microburst, I believe around 2015. And then we had a subsequent event where bamboo was planted on the neighboring lot, which has now aggressively spread over onto my brother's property. So I have been talking to staff about this. I'll be back in on Friday to show them some pictures of other projects. But really the effective way to do it is to excavate down 4 feet. So you've gotten every single riding zone out. You put in your root barrier system in, you backfill it, you plant it. It is one of the most aggressive, invasive plants that anyone could ever possible plant on a property. And it's been really upsetting to watch the spread of it. And that's why I felt compelled that I needed to come on and share all of that with you, that I'm probably even more upset about the bamboo than anyone here in this hearing. It's hasta la vista to the bamboo. Thank you.
All right. Maury. I'm sorry. I was just saying, hey, Maury, how you doing? You know, you look lonely. All right, start again. Jen.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Maria, quick question. If you're going to excavate out the bamboo, backfill and plant, what are you planting it with? Is it going to be the same species composition as proposed in your mitigation area?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
And also in that area where the bamboo is, and I brought a video in and I showed Alyssa, and I'd be so happy to meet with you guys out on site. There are 3 oak trees. 2 are completely dead. 1 is alive. I have to take the live one because I can guarantee you that there's rind zones in the roots, and there's no way I can effectively clean it out without impacting the roots. And we're more than happy to put 3 trees back in. I realize 2 are dead. But we want to reestablish this as a woody buffer, as it was when he bought the house.
So you're saying there's 3 oak trees in that area you want to remove, and it's not on the plan?
2 are dead. They're on the plan.
Oh, I see.
They're
Oak
identified.
cluster. Is it the oak cluster you're talking about?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So you're going to replant the oak clusters.
Correct.
And plant the bamboo area.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Correct.
We need it on the record because it's not on the plan, and
You got it.
Tom
And-
does not show it to be replanted. So we will condition that to
Sure.
be replanted. I
Okay.
do know there was concern for the neighbor to the north about some view easement. The commission doesn't really need to worry about the view easement. We've sent it over to council. And council does not feel that the view easement is supersedes our regulations or the Wetlands Protection Act.
Sure.
But in any case, we don't want anything happening to the cedar in the dead of night or anything
No.
else. So
Exactly.
you know, I spoke with the neighbor about his concerns. I wasn't sure if he had reached out to the applicant, but
did.
staff would be happy to meet with all parties on site to properly place that particular cedar, so
Thank
it's not impairing anybody's view, and it can grow up healthy and
Perfect.
happy and not be topped.
You got it. Thank you.
Is that agreeable to your client, Tom and Maria?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right. All right. Now, Maury, it's about comments, not just saying, hey.
I was glad to see the Carolina Rose be, well, your planting plan is much better than the last one. Thank you for working with staff on that. And other than that, I think that you've worked hard on this with staff, and it'll be a good project, and good luck with the bamboo. And I would love to know where you bring all that nasty stuff.
You're going to be excited to hear about this. And I'll talk to you in private, but there is a vendor in Falmouth that is going to open a section of their property for us to dispose of bamboo, which will then be burned. So I've been talking with All Cape Recycling in East Falmouth. I'm sure you're familiar with them.
Yeah, but how
They
do you
actually-
burn the rhizomes?
Yeah, they actually called me to talk about it. In the past, we've just burned it privately because the stuff is horrific. And there's
Right.
not a single brush dump on Cape Cod that will accept bamboo.
No, but what I'm asking is where do the rhizomes go that you're digging up?
To
I
All
know
Cape.
you-
Everything's going and to be dumped at the same facility.
Okay, thank you. I just don't know how they're gonna burn dirt with rhizomes in it, but
They have a screener. So I'm assuming they're gonna run it through the screener. So all that will remain are the rhinestones, and then they just put it in the burn pile.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jen, does DEP have to approve something like that?
Does DEP have to approve something like that? I'm not
At
quite
the
sure,
dump.
Mr. Chairman. I will
That's
look
a-
into that. I mean, if All
All right.
Cape's high and they probably have some sort of permit through DEP, so, but it wouldn't be on the wetlands or waterways end. It may
not,
be
yeah.
on a different.
Yeah, I didn't mean that. Just the fact that, that stuff's just gonna,
Oh, yeah,
whatever area they set aside is gonna
horrible.
grow exponentially.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's got to
That'd be
burn.
interesting to see. All right, Melissa.
Wow, great story about the bamboo. I remember a gazillion years ago when I was on the finance committee in Orleans, the town actually had to allocate 0.5% of the annual budget to eradicate bamboo from the dump because somebody had dumped it at the dump. And it's just, we should just be telling everyone to get rid of it, including their neighbors to the north. Thank you, Maria, for getting rid of that
Yep.
bamboo. And nice job. That's it.
thank you.
Thank you, Tom, too.
All right, Betsy.
No question.
Courtney? Courtney? You're on mute, sir.
No questions.
All right. Maria, did you say that area at their facility is open now or it's going to be?
It's going to be. So we've been talking back and forth, and specifically because of this project. And there's nobody on Cape Cod that offers this service.
I wonder why. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
There is nothing in the public chat, but there's someone patiently waiting with their hand raised. So I am going to promote, and I do believe this is the neighbor to the north at 21 Davis Neck.
All right.
Sir, you're going to have to click on becoming a panelist. Sir, where did you just go? Oh, there we go.
He just left.
Nope, he's there.
Okay.
Sir? You need to unmute yourself, sir, and turn your camera on if you have one. The unmute button is all the way to the bottom left hand of your screen.
Which
I
one
can
is it?
hear myself, so you're unmuted, so you can speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, we bought 21 Davis Neck Road approximately 6 years ago. The bamboo was there when we bought the house. The lot line appears to be right in the middle of the bamboo. So half of the bamboo is on the Daigles, half of the bamboo is on our lot. The problem I have with eradicating the bamboo is it shields the Daigles rubbish receptacles, which I understand everyone needs barrels and trash, but I don't particularly enjoy looking at it. John and I have always had a good relationship. I attempted to call him to discuss this matter, but was unable to get a return phone call. If the board is insistent upon removing that portion of the bamboo, that is on the Daigle's property, I understand them, but I do not want mine removed for the reasons I just stated. It gives me a certain level of privacy. It avoids me having to look at all that trash. The only other issue that I have is with regard to the main reason we bought the house, which is a fantastic view up the inlet to the ocean. And the only concern I have in that regard is if you could do something with locating that cedar, and I think you've addressed this, getting together and finding a location that is appropriate for the board, for the Daigles, but doesn't interfere with our view. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Can I please speak? With all due respect, the trash cans are behind a fenced-in area at the front corner of my brother's house. They're not even in the view field or in the backyard. They're out front by the garage. And then secondly, as staff is aware, I have videotape of the neighbor planting bamboo, which I did speak out to conservation about. Since that bamboo was planted, it has spread 20 feet onto my brother's property. They have young children, that we have nieces and nephews that can no longer play safely on the playground because there's bamboo growing up through it. And I have pictures from 2010 right up to when he bought the house. There was no bamboo on my brother's side.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the, I think I asked you, but I'm going to ask again, public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat other than the neighbor to the north, Mr. Chairman.
And he just spoke.
Yes.
Okay.
Betsy got booted somehow. I don't know how she did, so she's trying to log back on.
All right. Are we going to try and wait for her?
Let's see if I can raise her.
And at the time, I believe I proposed to him that there were better alternatives than bamboo to plant. He could put native cedars,
All right.
he could put a fence, you know.
Are you trying to reach us?
No.
No, Mr. No, sir. I'm
Sorry.
trying to reach Betsy.
Sorry.
One of our commissioners lost her signal.
West Falmouth's been for the last 2 weeks. We've had struggling with Comcast.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have that problem all that often, that frequently.
No. West Falmouth has that lucky virtue. Cell phone service and internet, about 50-50.
My phone doesn't work at my house. Hence the landline.
I know.
All right.
Betsy should be coming back on.
It looks like it. How much did she miss?
I don't know.
Can you hear me, Jamie?
Yes. Yep.
I only missed the neighbors' discussion about bamboo.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions from the commission?
I make a
All right.
motion,
Good.
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement, Harlow Hawks.
Bird,
Hart,
second.
Oops.
All right. If there's nothing further, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All right. Betsy,
Glenfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks side.
Melissa,
Hart, aye.
it is unanimous. We have closed the hearing. Thank you, Tom. Thank you,
Thank you.
Maria.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening. Well, I'll stay on them for the next one.
All right. Next up, Cheryl Ann Smith, 32 Salt River Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair an existing pool, expand the existing pool patio, construct a fire pit with patio, remove a bocce court and part of a stone wall, and install mitigation and restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to move everybody around. Give me 1 second, please.
Oh, that's fine. So Alyssa, for quorum, I have that Kevin and Courtney are not on it. Now Steve wouldn't be on it. So that leaves a prime quorum of 4. Okay.
Keep an eye on, there we are. Okay, I think everybody, let's see, Jamie, Melissa, Maury, Courtney, Betsy, Alyssa. Kristen's in attendees. I don't know how she got moved over there. Mark, Maria. Okay, we're all here.
Didn't Jimmy just say?
Courtney's on, not on this quorum though,
Right.
Oh, okay. Watch the bees, Courtney.
but come back later. All right, Mark, you're up, sir.
Good evening, Mark Dibb again with Cape and Islands Engineering. So this project we did present at the last hearing. If it's okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So there were a number of comments at the last hearing, and I'm just going to go through a resubmittal plan that we submitted last week and go through the changes we made. One area that we've changed is this area of the project up here. We've noted 2 existing holly trees that are to remain. There was an existing oak in this area, as well as there is a group of native shrubs from the previous restoration plan in this area. So we just documented that existing condition through here. And this is no longer an area that was proposed for either restoration and mitigation. Another change we did was outlined in orange, which is this portion of the site, as well as these additional areas. What this was previously proposed mitigation under another filing. There was a plan that had a fence being relocated in this restoration area or mitigation area at the time, which is now being classified kind of as restoration area. This area outside of the existing fence is the undergrowth is quite sparse now, and it was at the time we had some documentation of photos back when the other work was done. It was quite sparse, and it's actually the reasoning behind this proposed restoration. So I think we're proposing the plantings throughout this area to add growth to that area outside the current existing fence. And then the last thing we did was outline in blue, which is now the new mitigation for this patio expansion. We talked about these gray areas or pool patio expansion. the fire pit, as well as the steppers. All that has been included in the mitigation table, has been updated, shows the previous restoration plantings, proposed mitigation. We're actually proposing almost 400 square feet of additional mitigation above what's required, as well as a couple trees have been proposed for mitigation. Oh, and the last thing was we did identify a 25-foot wide vista corridor through here. It's basically there's a gate, and then from that edge of gate over to the north is the width of that 25-foot wide vista corridor. And then if you have any questions, Maria Hickey is also here to add anything else if needed, but for now, I'll give it back to the board.
Thanks, Mark. All right, Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the plan, Mark. I think you had addressed our concerns on the other side of the fence area. The only thing I wanted to point out is I believe at the last hearing, Alyssa had pointed out that the proposed red maple is under a really large canopy of trees and we need that relocated somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think that change can also be done in the field, just like the cedar for the 27 Davis Neck property. So I have no concerns with that, Mr. Chairman. We'll just condition it.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Ms. Bergeron?
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mark, I like the plan. Thanks for the revisions. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
Maury?
The only question I had was the runoff from the pool patio, the concrete impervious. I think probably the plants will absorb it, but if not, they might have to put it in some kind of box drain, because that's an awful lot of concrete. Other than that, I like the plan. Thank you.
Melissa?
Nice plan, nice site. Thank you. I wish the patio weren't being expanded that much, but it's nice to see all the extra mitigation and the bark mulch path that you're putting in. I mean, it's labeled as a bark mulch path. I assume that you're adding the bark mulch to it because there's nothing there. Or is it supposed to be bark mulch now and it's originally that on the plan?
It's already bark mulch.
Didn't look that way when I
Are you
was
talking about going out to the dock?
Yeah, I was on pine needles all the way out.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we're just trying to do is denote that there's a path that goes from the gate to the dock.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know if, yeah, okay, fine. It didn't, I wasn't sure if you were installing it or not, because I certainly didn't see any bark mulch out there when I was out there, but okay. Thank you for the project like this. It's nice place. Nice plan. Bye.
All right, Betsy?
My only comment is to Mark and Maria, thanks for working with staff and addressing all of the questions that came up the last time.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have anything they want to add, comments or questions? All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, what are you thinking?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. All right, Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Harlow Hawks eye.
Melissa?
Hi, Tug Eye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Again, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, everyone, and go Bruins.
Thank you.
Okay.
Night, guys. Which people around again.
All right, next up. Michael and Mary Azaro, 0 Charles Lane, map and parcel ID 25-02-025-004A, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a single-family dwelling with a deck, porch, and patio to install a Title V sewage disposal system and to install restoration plantings. Jen?
Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Tom Bunker up from BSS Design and Jen Crawford from Crawford Land Management to present their project.
Mr. Bunker, you're
All
up,
right.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm up. I'll start with our plan and describe it, and then Jen can talk about the restoration plan for this site. Share that. Okay. This is the town GIS map showing the location of this. Well, it shows there used to be a house on the lot, although I couldn't find out when. That's this lot's, outlined in yellow here, right up on Route 28A at the very top of the hill, east end of Charles Lane, and down it is the DCPC boundary goes up the center line of West Falmouth Highway along here. So this is in the DCPC. The wetlands are down here at the bottom of Charles Lane. So we've did our survey of the property and located most of the trees that are there. It has been mowed, I think, by the prior owner as a function of selling it, because it was property was pretty much impenetrable due to the bullbriar, bittersweet, and honeysuckle, and whatever else. Jen could detail more things probably, but I won't go into that. The lot is 21,734 square feet, and in DCPC, we are not allowed to permanently disturb more than 6,000 square feet of that lot. So we have all these green measles all over the place. Represents the restoration planting, and the white area in here represents 6,000 square feet that will be permanently disturbed, and that includes the house, garage, the porch here. Septic system is comprised of, this is a walkout level on the bottom, and so the septic system is one trench of the septic system in this location, 10 feet from the foundation here, and the other half of the septic system is up top where it is 10 feet from the garage foundation, and then up to 10 feet from the property line here. The requirement is to be 20 feet from the cellar foundation, the corner of that being right in this location, actually 21 feet. So we previously had the septic system further out downhill from the house. We'd done that once before, but we had done the septic system and we were allowed to call it temporary disturbance, but that was only on an upgrade to a septic system. And I was corrected, and so that it cannot do that for new construction. And so we've pulled that in with two trenches here to be close up to the foundation. The reserve area is here, but there is actually no requirement in Title V that reserve area be used. I did confirm today with Scott, the health agent, that these trenches can be dug out and reused if in fact they do fail. And it's not required, will not be required to move into this reserve area here. So that can stay as a permanently vegetated location. And so we have the steps going up between the two levels. This is the first floor level and down to the lower level here. And there is grading, temporary disturbance here, regraded to match the flow of the steps, and down here, and that was will be prior to some of that restoration planting going in here. We also called out this area as a temporary area. It's other than this cedar tree. This is all flat and cleared out, sort of flat and cleared out, and we identified that as a temporary area where that could possibly be used for storage, stockpile, and possibly parking for some of the workers on site, because it's a narrow road and there's just no other parking along there. We do have basically 10 feet all the way around. We do have the patio here, and the restoration planting is up against the patio. There is no definite requirement for 10 feet around it. There is room to get by here, and any ladders, let's say for working on either of these two sides of the house, they have 10 feet where people would have to work to work on those sides of the house. I don't think that we have two of the dry wells that are within the restoration area, but I wouldn't see the need for them being dug up. If you feel that's a problem, I can find another location for them. That's what I have to date. The septic tank is partly under it, but under the restoration planting, but its tank won't have to be dug up. All the manhole covers are exposed for pumping and inspection, and otherwise everything except, I think Jen said maybe a tiny area, maybe it got moved off. I thought a tiny area of that one trench was possibly under some of the restoration planting. That's what we have. I think for now, I'll pull this down, and Jen can talk about the vegetation on the site and what will be put in for restoration.
Good evening. For the record, Jen Crawford, Crawford Land Management. I'm going to put up our restoration plan and some site photos. So we were brought into the project just recently. So we did complete a site evaluation and based much of what sorry, I'm trying to get to my other tab, but it's underneath my Zoom information. There we go. So we did base much of our evaluation just simply on what we could find and see out there. Clearly, there was a heavy presence. Sorry, it's late already for me. A heavy presence of English ivy as well as greenbrier, bittersweet, and there also was some Japanese knotweed in one portion of the property, which is already starting to sprout. The adjacent parcel, there is some coarse woody debris on the site, and the adjacent parcel clearly shows, sorry, up this way, clearly shows pretty much what was there prior. Overall, the site is well treed. It's wooded, predominantly with eastern red cedar. There are a bunch of invasive black locust trees, mostly up in this portion of the property. As you can see, just off property in the right of way, there are quite a few that BSS was able to locate for us. Generally speaking, other than the tree canopy, I don't believe that there was probably hardly any native understory shrub species here, just based on what we could observe. And nothing would be resprouting yet. It's not quite warm enough. So certainly if in any of these restoration areas, there are any sort of native shrub species resprouting, they would be saved and they would be allowed to regrow. I doubt that we will find hardly any. That was actually one of staff questions, was what we felt percentage of understory may be native. And I would bet my life on saying absolutely less than 10%. Just again, given what we saw out there. So in terms of a revegetation strategy, we are dealing with an area that is that has a fairly even tree canopy. It's very shaded. We are proposing, while we're there and the site is torn up, we are proposing to manage the invasive tree species that are still remaining, the black locust, and to treat anything that resprouts. We included provision for stem injection of the Japanese knotweed. Most of the knotweed is located in this area. Tom was noting during his presentation, a dry well located here, this portion of the septic system, as well as another dry well located here. You'll notice that our planting plan does take that into account in terms of keeping woody vegetation off the top of those dry wells, keeping woody vegetation off of this overdig area and directly adjacent to the trench, as well as keeping woody vegetation off of this side of the septic, so that if any work does need to happen there for any reason in the future, we've hopefully limited the amount of woody vegetation that would need to be disturbed in order to do that work. Let's see, what else can I tell you? We also kept knowing that this stone wall and just across the stone wall is a tangle of everything that was on this property as well. We have shown in a very light dashed line under this a 5-foot basically clear maintenance area that is intended to be mown, maintained and mown along with the maintenance regime to help keep some of those adjacent invasives at bay. We have included, I should note that there are 3 very small oaks in this area. I don't even know, Tom, if they appeared on your survey. I don't know that they were even big enough to qualify, but they have been previously topped. There's an overhead wire that runs along here, and there wasn't a whole lot left of those. I don't think that we submitted photos to you. I don't believe we submitted those photos to you in our narrative, but we are proposing to just simply get rid of those. I don't think that some stump sprout managing them back into canopy species is a good idea, especially with the overhead wires that run right next to here. They would eventually end up in the same state that they are now. So instead, we have proposed to revegetate the understory clearly. We have over 400 native shrubs going back in that understory, appropriate for shade conditions, trying to increase that species diversity. We also have an area, this area located along the edge of where the septic is and along the edge of the walkout. We have shown that as a hay-scented fern sod, it being within the limit of work that will be open during construction of the house. We thought it was an appropriate way to very quickly revegetate this area, as well as to make sure that with the septic and the overdig along this side and the dry well here, that those areas were vegetated rapidly, also including a native ground cover that is extremely adapted to heavy shade conditions. So that was our reason for choosing that particular species in that particular form, the sod form for that area. And we included all the standard provisions that you would expect with a restoration planting for temporary irrigation, maintenance regime, the knotweed management treatment, seed mix, and we also have 14 serviceberry, as well as 4 tupelo trees going in. We thought that the most appropriate ways to vegetate some of these areas that are directly adjacent to existing canopy trees that are staying would be with that understory shad. Again, it adds to that species diversity and is completely appropriate for the site conditions, as well as the larger tupelo at the lowest portion of the property where it will potentially, or they will potentially see a little bit more water. So I think that quickly covers the basis of everything, and I am more than happy to answer any questions you may have about either our site evaluation or the proposed restoration work.
Thank you. Mrs. Lincoln.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think the only concern I have was with the use of the state hay-scented fern as a restoration plant in the DCPC. I think Jen addressed the other questions we had on her planting plan. And that's all I have, but I do have concerns with it.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. My only other question was, and I'm not sure if it's been calculated, what the square footage of the restoration area is, taking in the maintenance and the 6,000 envelope. Do we have a number for that?
On our plan, we approximated it to 15,340 square feet.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And I should also add, I do believe that we did have a note somewhere because this restoration area abuts, lawn area that will wrap around the house. I believe we included to install a steel edge to define those areas and to keep them separate and delineated. I believe that note appears on our plan. Yes, it does. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Melissa, we're going to start with you.
Lucky me. Thank you. Just a quick question, I hope. When I was out on the property maybe a week and a half ago, there was something starting to grow near the southern rock wall that I think you had a photo of, Jem. It was sort of like a greenish, reddish spade looking leaf. What was that? There was a lot of it.
Japanese knotweed.
That's knotweed. Oh wow.
Correct.
Okay. That is vicious. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Other than that, I was sad at all the trees that are going to have to come out, but I guess that's all a part of putting in a septic system. And yeah, okay, thanks. No other questions except for what that thing was that was growing everywhere. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Betsy.
No questions or comments.
All right. Courtney.
No questions.
All right. I think it's a great plan. I mean, there are trees coming down, but what are you going to do? There's a good restoration plan there. Maury.
I just had 2 questions. On BSS plan, they show the wall that's to the west, and he shows dots for mitigation planting right up against the wall. But the Crawford had the salt fern, the salt hay fern, and with Jen, we don't allow that to be a mitigation plant in that area in the DCPC. And also, I think that should all be woody vegetation where you're proposing the salt hay fern. And the other thing is you're taking out 180 inches, caliper inches of trees off of this lot, and you're giving us 10 inches back. And in the DCPC, I just don't think that that's appropriate. I think that I'm glad that you're using the Amelanchier. It's a great, small tree shrub for that area with the shade. But in the area where the cedar is, I don't know how you're going to put all your fill and parking lot there and save that cedar, the 8-inch cedar. I mean, maybe you can, park around it or whatever, but maybe in that area you could put maybe some more trees and remove you people are invasive people, species removal, and you're leaving black locust right in your restoration planting on that northeast corner. right where your, I guess you want to call it your staging area, your temporary storage. I think there are 4 or 5 locusts right there. And why you wouldn't cut those down, I don't know why you're leaving those inside a restoration area.
We're not. All the black locust on the property are proposed for removal as an invasive tree species.
Okay.
The ones that we can't
Yeah,
remove are
I
off the
didn't-
property between the property line in the
Okay,
right of way for
thank
West
you.
Falmouth Highway.
Okay, so I think we're gonna be putting a few more trees back in then, because 180 inches gone and 10 back is pretty atrophic for that area. And since you're gonna be taking everything down, and again, the owners, I know, probably didn't know any better that they needed a permit to mow that. I know it was all invasive, but they should have done that before they started. We go through a lot of brush. So that's just my opinion. The rest of the board might be happy that they only got 4 trees after cutting down 180 inches, but I'm not. And I'm not gonna approve the salt hay burn either. That's all.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Crawford, do you want to address the trees and the fern or not?
I think I've stated my position on the use of the hay-scented fern and the reason for it, especially to quickly revegetate a ground cover within a construction area. It is a native species. It does grow in all over Falmouth, along your roadsides and everywhere that you can see it visibly. It is a valid species and a part of these native plant communities. So, and it is over some, very near and over septic components and dry wells. So that was the reason for using it, and I stand behind that. In terms of the trees, this is, even with the tree removal that will be taking place in the restoration area, this will still be a very well-treated and well-canopied site. Most of the trees that are there are eastern red cedar. It's very difficult to find understory trees that will, understory canopy trees that will sit and wait underneath eastern red cedar in order to wait for the cedar to naturally die or blow down so that they have enough sunlight and nutrient content to grow up. I actually do not observe other native canopy tree species growing under eastern red cedar naturally. So if you know of any that will, I'm more than happy to take a look at them. It also should be noted that there are overhead power lines running along that entire northern area. So putting large canopy tree species close to that property edge, I think is would be unfortunate long term. So those are my comments.
All right, Maury?
So where the one standing cedar is in the temporary storage stockpile, and you're taking down all the locust, I don't see any cedar trees there that are gonna be interfering with more trees.
If you would like me to take a look at that area, we can reduce the number of shrubs that will be there, and we can add a few more trees in that area. There is a cherry tree. There are quite a few trees around there, but that's fine. I'm happy to do that if that's what the board would like me to do.
And again, the fern, we all know what happens to fern. It becomes the fodder to a lawnmower, and that's the perfect place. I'm looking at it. It looks like it's going to be a lawn at some point. And a fence might be going up so that they don't go in there. But again, it's just we just don't usually allow it. That's all. And I think Jen made that very clear.
All right. Tom, I have a question about your septic tank. It looks like it's proposed as an H10. It's in the driveway, at least partially. Should that not be a 20?
It should definitely be a 20. I'm sorry, that was a mislabel. Definitely an H20 tank. So change that.
Doesn't encroach by a lot, but it might be enough. All right. Any other comments or questions from the board? Melissa?
Thank you. I'd like to sort of second Maury's comments about the trees. And looking a little closer at the hay scented fern area, you know, the whole bit south of the patio could certainly be, you know, between the patio and the rock wall, could have other mitigation plantings, wooding plantings, as opposed to just fern in it, I guess, because there's no septic system down there.
We are attempting to maintain a 5-foot distance away from that wall as a maintenance or a mow strip, basically, so that the junk on the other side of the wall is less likely to encroach. So you are not left with a whole lot of room for large understory shrubs that you like to see in your plantings in that area. But if you would like me to jam some in there, I am more than happy to.
Wasn't there something that you put in that over on Drift Road that's going in as an understory, sort of growing something? What was that? It was
we used a lot of different things over there. We used one of the things we used a shorter understory. I think we used huckleberry sod in part of it.
Yeah, that's what it was. Would huckleberry sod work in this area?
Yes, it would.
It's a thought that wouldn't be mowed by a lawnmower, and it's kind of dense, and it will have little flowers and berries.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
the huckleberry sod is.
I remember looking into it when you were doing that over on Drift Road, and I thought that was interesting. It might be an alternative.
If the board is amenable, I would be more than happy to include that as part of this restoration planting.
All right. Anything else? All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, what are you thinking?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Ledfelter.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Mr. Bunker or Ms. Crawford, do you have anything to add?
What do you think, Tom?
If you're gonna, I have nothing to add. If we can get some of the details worked up after you or before you vote on it, I'll definitely, Jen and I will work together. If we want to get some trees and some shrubs, and I'll change the septic tank and get some of these details worked up.
Well, then that would require a continuance, Tom. Because I can't look at that on a revised plan after the close of the hearing. So if you want another continuance to maybe kind of rework the plan and give the board something else to look at, where's my calendar? We can have you on.
I think on my end of it, changing the H10 to H20 tank, you know, that could be a condition anyway. But if we're talking about other trees and shrubs, do you have?
I kind of feel like that's I don't know. I know the owner is anxious to move forward, but at the same time, I feel like some of the requests that the board has made, if I can get a little bit more direction, I think we might feel more comfortable with closing in terms of exactly what you're looking for. Because I feel right now like it's a little bit open-ended.
I don't want to, if we're going to change the plan and have the board, I'm not going down that road again, to have the board approve something after the close of a public hearing. So I wouldn't recommend to the board closing the hearing if you want to see changes to the planting plan. Jen, how long do you think would it take you to make some changes based on the board's comments?
I think we can make some changes and get something back to the board by next week. I don't think that's a problem. I just hope it will be what you're looking for.
I'm just, personally, from a staff level, you know, I've looked up the hay scented fern sod, and I'm just uncomfortable with it along that grass edge. I think it just become over time an extension of the lawn. I'm sure you can understand that.
I do.
I wouldn't.
Would the board and staff be more comfortable with that area changing to the huckleberry sod, which is a woody? I mean, the huckleberry is a low-growing woody shrub.
I wouldn't be opposed to the huckleberry sod in this area. I mean, I know we're trying it in other locations, but So I
Because
would
I think we would.
opposed
we
to
would-
that. I would be more amenable to that than
Yeah.
the hay scented fern.
All right.
But I do
I think that's
some
that's a change that I think we could agree to, absolutely.
tree, I think maybe some more work on the trees. I know there's some concern about the trees. If you could get us a plan. Second, Jen, by next Wednesday, we could
That I
have
can
it
do.
on the 3rd of May. That'll give a week for the board to review the plan.
I can definitely do that on my end. And if you know, if we're amenable to changing that to Huckleberry, that's a very easy change on our plan. And I will specifically take a look at the area that Maury mentioned with the 8-inch cedar that we're using for the temporary storage area during construction.
Okay.
I can absolutely take a look at that area.
The board good with that? We will continue to May 3rd and you can have a revised plan to look at by next week.
I'm not here on the 3rd, and I thought Melissa said she wasn't going to be here on the 3rd.
I'll be here on the 3rd.
Okay.
Okay. So we'd
Okay.
have to make sure that Courtney, myself, Maury, and Melissa are here.
I'm
'Cause that's
here.
only 4 for the quorum. So, all right, so Betsy, I need a revised motion,
So
because you made a motion to close it.
I did. Well, anyway, I'll make a motion to forget whatever I might have made a motion for, and I'll make this motion to continue to May 3rd.
Very
I'll
second.
second.
All right. So we have a
Doesn't
motion.
Courtney
and a
need,
sec-
doesn't Courtney need to unmove his second as well?
Yeah,
Fine. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this to May 3rd. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until May 3rd. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Tom, Jen.
Good night.
All right, next up is a request to amend an existing order of conditions. AC Cape Cod LLC, 836 Palmer Ave, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4444 to permit trenching and temporary disturbance within the buffer zone, which will occur during the upgrade of the existing sewage treatment plant. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Rob Dewar up from Brocken Engineering to present his amended project. Hi, Rob.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob DeWar here with Bracken Engineering on behalf of AC Cape Cod, also known as AutoCamp. Also on the meeting tonight is Kevin Klein with Stantec.
I can promote Kevin up.
Yeah, that would be.
Sorry about that, Kevin.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen real quick.
Please do.
So we have here the sort of the bottom portion of AutoCamp. The hill with the clubhouse is rising up to the north here, and the 2 access roads that come down the slope are here. In fact, let me just show. Can you guys see this aerial view right here?
Yes.
We've got the aerial. So the area we're talking about is down here. Here is the maintenance and utility shed housing, some of the treatment operations. And right here we have a small isolated vegetated wetland running down to just to the south of us. Here is the Shining Sea Bike Trail. And of course, over here we have the Sippawisset Marsh. Just to give a quick backstory, a little history here, we have an existing sewage treatment plant down here, right adjacent to this shed. if I zoom in here, the treatment plant is here. All of this treatment, all of this treated effluent is pumped to the other side of the camp and under the pavement where the two leaching fields, leach field A and B, are located. So, and those are currently being rebuilt right now. Field B having been rebuilt, and Field A is next to be rebuilt under a separate issue. So what brings us here tonight, though, if I'm going to go back to my plan real quick, is we have been working with the Board of Health between Bracken Engineering, Stantec, and the Falmouth Board of Health to provide improvements to the existing treatment plant with a goal of getting our total nitrogen loading under 12 milligrams per liter. We haven't quite hit that target yet due to an unforeseen excess of concentration of the influent. So we'd like to provide some supplementation to the existing treatment plant just to bring our numbers up. So what we are proposing is an increase, a new 12,000 gallon anoxic septic tank here, a 3,500 gallon stilling well, a new 12,000 gallon clear well, and providing tertiary treatment through an additional Amphidrome Plus reactor here. That is to supplement an existing Amphidrome reactor that is already on site now. There is some ancillary work to the existing reactor to actually increase its capacity as well. So what brings us here tonight is that we do have an isolated vegetated wetland here on site. That was originally delineated back at the beginning of the project in 2018 by Brendan Mullaney, who is a former employee of Bracken Engineering. And the 100-foot Zone B buffer line runs essentially just to the outside of our work. You know, the major installation of components is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. However, we do have concerns that over excavation to install this 12,000 gallon tank will impede into the 100-foot zone. We are proposing shoring around it to prevent that because we do anticipate some dewatering necessary for the installation there. In addition to that, we do have a temporary disturbance going through this zone just to provide some trenching for electric lines to the Amphidrome reactor, as well as air lines and actual supplemental chemical treatment lines as well coming from the maintenance shed. So you can see here's the 100-foot buffer coming through here. And we do have just some temporary disturbance for trenching here and here. And again, this is the 12,000 gallon anoxic septic tank. The red zigzag line here is our shoring limits. You can see it butts right up against the 100-foot buffer. So if all goes well, this should not impede into the buffer, but we don't know until we can start digging. So we wanted to cover our bases beforehand. So with that, we'd like to propose a amendment to the existing order. And with that, I'd like to open up to the commission for any questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Rob. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you know, staff met with Bracken and Stantec? Yes, Stantec. On site, just to kind of review everything. We felt an amendment was appropriate, just given the amount of interest on this project, and it's very minor in nature, and I have no comments at this time. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Bergeron?
I also have no comments. Thank you.
All right. We'll start at the top. Betsy?
I also have no comments.
All right. Courtney?
Assuming everything is installed according to design, I have no problem.
Maury?
No comments. Big project.
Melissa?
No comments. Let's fix that septic system. And sewer system.
Hear ye, hear ye. Mr. Klein, would you like to speak on anything?
If you have no questions or comments, I guess I'll be very, very brief. What we're doing is trying to upgrade the system. System provides good treatment for BOD and solids. We want to enhance the nitrogen removal. We're getting about 90% removal now, but we're still at about 25 milligrams per liter total nitrogen. So this is to get us down below 12. And it was the original design had a phase 2 for an Amphitryon Plus. This is adding that and then adding a couple of additional components, the X-ray anoxic tank and the stilling well, just to make this as good as we can get it out here.
Excellent. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, does anybody have anything else? Any other comments or questions? All right,
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Bird second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Howell Hawks eye.
Melissa.
Fragile guy.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Mr. Klein.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Excuse me, just.
All right. Next up, request to extend an existing order of conditions. Mullen Inc., 267 Clinton Ave, Falmouth, Mass. DEP number 25-4020 requests a 3-year extension. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has withdrawn the request for an extension and will be filing a new notice of intent for the project.
All right.
Okay. That was easy.
Simplifies that, doesn't it? All right, next up, vote order of conditions. Wesley Gee, 1 Grove Street, Falmouth, Mass. This was that very long-winded presentation by Erica Norman. She said 8 words. I want her back.
Second, Mr. Chairman, for this on the.
Courtney, you're not on this quorum, sorry.
But I am on the enforcement order, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you are, Court. So this was the addition. They're proposing mitigation. They're proposing a tree. We talked about relocating the tree. The root barrier being installed on the wetland edge of the mitigation plantings to protect them from invasives. And I have a note that says stop mowing. Can someone refresh my memory of why I have a note? This is stop mowing. Alyssa?
Oh,
I think Melissa was saying they should stop mowing, but it was a lawn that people had had for a long time.
Okay, got it. All right.
I agree.
Okay.
all right. Anybody have anything particularly want in there? Melissa?
Have we'd spoken something about a root barrier along the wetland?
Yes,
Okay,
I have that.
okay.
All right. What are you thinking?
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as extensively discussed.
Come on.
Second, Fragile.
Thank you. All
Lori
right.
seconded,
We have a-
she was just muted.
Muted.
Oh, sorry. All right, we have a motion and a second issue an order of conditions as discussed. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hollow Hawks eye.
Melissa?
Hi, Tug Eye.
All right, unanimous with this forum. We have issued an order of conditions. And Courtney, you can come back in. How did we sneak an enforcement order after order of conditions? We always do order of conditions last. You know what that did to my thinking? I was
I
like,
know.
So Courtney already raised this issue, and you're really dedicated, very thorough and detail-oriented new admin. Didn't like that we sometimes would sneak vote enforcement orders, like we just add them under vote orders of conditions, and she felt it was better if we just blocked it out and said vote enforcement order. So that's what we're doing. We're not hearing a project. We would hear if, like, next time when we hear 0 Lakeshore, we're going to hear it before vote orders, but this is just voting the enforcement order. And we're just kind of breaking that out for you, make it clearer. And if you'd like me to put it before the vote orders of conditions, I'd be happy to.
I've never seen anything except other business after.
I know.
All right.
All right, so this is 101 Lakeshore. Alyssa, you want to recap? It was removing the shed, removing a kind of a platform deck.
Yes, let me just grab the plan here. So yes, this was the property, not the two near each other. This was the isolated one. So this is with the unpermitted shack and platform down by the water, the retaining feature that was constructed in order to get access to those features and eventually dismantle them. So all of those features will be removed and the area regraded in accordance with the remaining grades on the property. There was also note of the, I don't know if it was pea stone, some type of stone patio sitting area that was created, and we were looking for the board's input on whether that should be removed or mitigated for, or what your preference was in that area. There's pictures that have been sent to us of the property. It looks like it has historically not had an understory. It was covered in a lot of ivy. So I don't think there was really any restoration required.
No, I think if they remove the fire pit stone area, it would just be revert to lawn and just replant lawn in that area. So I think it's just removing of these unpermitted structures. So I guess the question we have for the board is, do you want the pea stone patio fire pit area removed as well? And do you want it removed by a date and all these features removed by a date certain? And I mean, the date certain I would give you would probably be June 30th. Gives them 60 days, 60 plus days to remove everything.
Would the fire pit have been permitted if a request was made for it?
That would be whether or not the board felt it was moving closer than the present primary structure, and it is.
So the answer is no.
Correct.
So then it should
Alyssa,
be.
is the patio in the A zone to the
It is in the A zone because it's a full 100 foot,
Yeah,
since
so it's
Jenkins
in the
Pond
A
is a
zone.
zone 2. It's loose stone with large boulders around it, as opposed to like paver. But it is
in your zone A?
Pervious material that does not support natural vegetation in zone A.
So it
I don't
should be
have a problem with
removed.
it.
Correct.
It wouldn't have been
That's my
permitted,
question.
Jamie.
Yeah, I know.
Do you think,
Melissa?
do you think 60 days is actually enough for them to get this done and out?
I do. I mean, it's not as
not-
large of a project as the other properties.
But all those stone walls and everything, I mean, that's, are we just talking 60?
No.
No, we're just talking
the
about
timber
the,
wall.
I'm sorry, Jamie. I think we were just talking about the unpermitted shack platform and the fire pit stone sitting pea stone area, correct, Alyssa?
Yes, and the the wooden retaining
Oh,
feature
the
that was
wooden
constructed.
retaining,
The
yeah.
stone features have been there for decades.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
so the
the
little
retaining
wooden
walls
retaining
and-
area.
What about the brick walkway?
Is that around the house leading
No,
to the back?
it's between the deck and goes downhill along the east side of the property.
Are you looking at 101 Lake Shore, Melissa?
the triangular one?
Oh, I see what you're talking about, Melissa. I believe that's been there as well.
I think 60 days is appropriate. If they need an extension, they can always request an extension from the staff and we can grant one to them.
Okay.
Okay, 60 days. Okay.
So are we
It's not
telling
here
them
to
to
think
remove the
about it.
fire pit?
It's staff's opinion that the fire pit would not have been permitted because it's in your zone A, so that is going to be up to the board.
Should we have them plant something as mitigation?
It was grass before, I just have them return it to that lawn area.
And if they want a fire pit, they can come to us and.
Correct.
Okay.
But we're leaving the stone walls and we're leaving the brick walkway.
Correct.
Okay.
You really think that the stone walls have been there that long?
They look like they've been there quite a while. I think it's been a while since I've looked at it, but I believe I saw them in the old photos.
I think we did, Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the properties in that area, you can tell have had those retaining features in the backyards as more of like a step type of backyard.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to issue an enforcement order as discussed.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an enforcement order. Everybody clear on what's in there? All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. All right. Last motion. Who wants it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Carla Hawk, second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
Carla Hawk's eye.
Right, guy.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Good
good
night,
evening,
everybody.
everyone. Good night.